and address those types of issues. He's been our go-to guy for that frankly for quite a few years. So we've asked him to be assigned as part of the staff to work with this group. In the back of the room, I have Chief Joslin, who he is our chief of our criminal services division, and he oversees just about all of our criminal deputies. Again, those areas where this group will be focusing their efforts on. And I myself, as under sheriff, will also be here and be part of these meetings with those two folks to answer any questions that you may have regarding the services we provide, the policies that we function under, and be here to make sure that when the time comes, when and if there are policies that you as a group need to be addressed, I'm going to be here to make that happen on behalf of the sheriff. I spoke to the sheriff a little while ago this afternoon, and he wanted to make it clear that he is available to come to any meeting that you request that he comes to address any issues that you believe that you would like to hear directly from the sheriff on, although he has empowered me to come speak on his behalf. But he is more than happy to come and address you personally if there's something that you need to discuss with him. And he also wanted me to make it clear to this group that that we will be here for each meeting. However, if for some reason you would like to hold a meeting and you don't want us present because you may want to talk to someone else in law enforcement or someone else from the sheriff's office, and you feel that our presence may make those conversations more difficult for whoever that person may be, that again, at your request, we would be happy to not be here if that's what you need to do. We're looking for just a fair and open process. We're looking for to be able to voice both our agreement and our concerns with anything that you may have to say as we go through this process. But we are here to help, and I'm certainly available anytime to address any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Undersheriff. I said I wasn't going to read this thing, and I don't want to. As an attorney, I can tell this was written by an attorney because there's a ton of semicolons and commas. It's the longest sentence you'll ever see, at least today. But I think the last 4 lines are very important. When we're talking about what we're doing here, it's tailored to the specific needs of the community and general promotion of improved police agency and community relations based on trust, fairness, and accountability and transparency, and which seek to reduce any racial disparities in policing. It's a lot just in that last 4 lines, nevertheless, the whole sentence. This plan shall be offered for public comment in the end. The public will play a role in the formulation of the plan. They actually will have, we're planning, as we'll talk about with regards to meetings moving forward, we plan on having 2 meetings in October that are solely dedicated to taking comments from the public. One of them may be in person, one will definitely be virtually, and as you'll see, we're also going to have a repository on an email for all public comments, and if individuals can't attend a meeting but they still wanted to talk about the subject matter. And as you have a copy of this, all must be done as a collaborative process as defined in the guide provided by the state. This is online for those who may be watching at home or reviewing this later. The New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative, Resources and Guide for Public Officials and Citizens. And I'm going to go through a lot of this guide because I think it sets forth what we have to do going forward. Simple as that, our charge. And if we do it right, I think we'll have a process that engages the entire public, and we'll feel very comfortable at the end that we have a plan, a reform plan that is representative of what the needs of the entire community are. When I say entire community, I mean all of Erie County, not just 1 or 2 locations, but all. So what does that mean, and what should this process include? Well, we have to review the needs of the community served by its police agency and evaluate the department's current policies and practices. Sheriff's Office has some specific locations where they are the only ones, but they also have responsibilities associated with the whole county. And I know in the Sheriff's Office, they work and assist Buffalo PD, just like they work and assist Cheektowaga PD and others, just as much as they are in Springville or other areas. So it is truly encompassing for the greater community. We have to establish policies that allow police to effectively and safely perform their duties. Our goal is to assume that we're doing what's best for all involved, the greater community as well as the officers that represent the sheriff's the deputies, so that we're also protecting them as well. We are going to involve the entire community in the process as much as the community wants to be involved. It's going to be an open process. We'll be developing policy recommendations resulting from this review and offer a plan for public comment. So we're going to take public comment. There'll be a working period, as we'll show, in which we develop a plan. Then we'll take more public comment on that plan before this panel officially prepares a plan to present to the legislative body, which is the Erie County Legislature, for adoption and ratification by April 1st of 2021. And we'll go a little bit more into those timelines later. And then we have to certify as a county, once the legislature acts, that this has been done and given to the state budget office by April 1st of 2021, or April 21st, excuse me. And this is important because the governor basically said the state budget office will be empowered to withhold funds associated with that police agency that they may receive from New York State. And I do know that the Erie County Sheriff's Office receives substantial grants from New York State for various police functions. So if we did not do this process, we are putting lots of money at risk. And so I think it's important that we do this for various reasons. The most important one, to ensure that we have effective police that meets the community's needs, also protects the sheriff's deputies, but there's also a financial commitment as part of it. And to all watching at home who may be thinking about this with regards to your own police department, if they haven't announced in your town, your village, or your city how they're going to go about this, they should, for various reasons, including they would put finances at risk at a time when we are all broke, to put it mildly, because of the issues associated with COVID-19. So what police agency will this panel review? We've had people reach out saying, why aren't you looking at Buffalo PD? Why aren't you looking at that? Our charge is the police agency associated with this government, which is the Erie County Sheriff's Office. Mayor Brown just recently announced a panel of his own with regards to the Buffalo Police Department. I know others have announced plans or panels per se to move forward, but this will be the Erie County Sheriff's Office, and this panel is primarily to look at the police services, the road patrol, and those issues. It is not directed under the charge from the governor or the guidance to other issues such as the jails and jail management. We actually have an Erie County Community Advisory Board with regards to the jails, of which Miles Gresham noted he's on it, as well as Issa Felice. We already have that in place. We certainly will assume that we'll be hearing from about those issues in the public, but the primary responsibility of this task force, this panel, is to address the issues associated with the policing functions of the Erie County Sheriff's Office, which are very large. And I'll go into a little later about how we're going to sort of describe that. So the information you're going to see just talking about is in the guidebook. And there's a lot of information in the guidebook. It's very, very important. Important's not the right word, but it's encompassing with the issues that they want governments to look at as it pertains to this issue. So one of the key issues is, as they talk about over consideration, they break up the guidebook in parts. Part one, key questions for insights for consideration. Which function should the police perform? So you got to determine the role of the police, which is about as basic a function as I think we can get, but it's interesting that they want that looked at. And as part of that, I know they're talking also about are there functions that could potentially be utilized outside of the traditional police agency that would be part and parcel going forward, such as having social workers or having mental health individuals as part of the police agency to assist in that capacity. Also, staffing, budgeting, and equipping your police department. So is it appropriately staffed, budgeted? Are there areas of concern? Are there areas that could be adjusted? Then we look at the big part as it pertains to in the manual is establishing smart and effective policing standards and strategies. And the number one that they focus on is examining procedural justice and community policing. And while all of these bullets that you see for the different parts have sub-bullets, I'm not going to go in every sub-bullet, but I thought it was important that we go into this one because it's the heart of what appears to be what the state and the executive order from the governor, as well as the guidebook, really is asking the panels to look at, the communities to come up in their plan. So should we be looking at specific police strategies that have raised concerns? And they identify particular strategies and concerns. Not every one of the sections does, if you haven't looked at it, but in the book, it specifically does with this one. The broken windows and stop and frisk policies. Discriminatory or bias-based stop, searches, and arrests. Chokeholds and other restrictions on breathing. Use of force for punitive or retaliatory reasons. Pretextual stops. Informal quotas for summons, tickets, or arrests. Use of SWAT teams and no-knock warrants. Use of less than lethal weaponry like tasers and pepper spray, as well as use of facial recognition technology. So these are all things that should be addressed or at least looked at as the panel goes along as it pertains, with many other factors that are going to be looked at too. But I thought it was important because these were really highlighted in the guidebook. And if you read the executive order, it's really where the gist of Governor Cuomo's executive order is really looking at a lot of this stuff here. And I think we all realize the governor's executive order came as a result of the horrible incident in Minneapolis with George Floyd. So we have to always think about that in the back of our heads, why the governor signed the executive order, what they want the local panels, the local leaders to look at, and the key issues that they think are very important, which are very important. So then after examining procedural justice and community policing, look at law enforcement strategies to reduce racial disparities and build trust, which is a very important thing, and community engagement. It's huge that I think we talked about community policing in so many different ways. Well, what type of community engagement and community policing policies do exist? Fostering community-oriented leadership, culture, and accountability. That's part 3. This I think is going to be one that will be talked about, which is leadership and culture. So we'll be talking about leadership and culture of the Erie County Sheriff's Office. Tracking and reviewing use of force and identifying misconduct. There's always a lot of questions with regards to that, and I think this is it was noted in the guidebook as an important one that has to be looked at. Internal accountability for misconduct. Citizen oversight and other external accountability, as well as data technology and transparency. So, I mean, they're going after, these are in some ways, depending on your side or your point of view, from either the last two I talked about, these are hot button issues when it comes to policing. Whether you are coming at it from a view, what would be considered pro-police, or those that are coming at it from more community-based. And I think it's very important that we look at that, because if this process is going to work out, it has to be a fair, open process where all of these issues are discussed and given an opportunity for the public to be heard, as well as the Sheriff's Office to be heard, and at the end come together hopefully with a plan that creates a better Erie County Sheriff's Office and a better community. And then an important thing also is regarding the police officers themselves, the sheriff's deputies, recruiting and supporting excellent personnel. Recruiting a diverse workforce, what's being done for that, what could be done better. Training and continuing education, and supporting officer wellness and well-being. So it's going to be looking at all sides. Now, the process and plan for moving forward. I think it's important that everyone understands as we move forward, or like here, what are the goals? So there is a timeline that is in the guidebook. It's not exact, it's just sort of where they think you should be. But the planning and listening and learning will be through early November, as I will explain very soon with regards to the next meetings. The next meeting will be a presentation from the Erie County Sheriff's Office on its policies and procedures, especially as it pertains to the things that we talked about are in the guidebook. The 3rd and 4th meetings, which should be held the 3rd and 4th week of October, will be direct public comment. I don't know how many people will participate. We may have a lot, we may not. But we are going to give the public an opportunity to comment before a plan is started to be formulated by this panel. So we're not going to, here's the plan and then public comment afterwards. The public will be heard, as well as the Sheriff's Office, before we even start really contemplating and considering a plan. And when I say we, I'm talking about you. My office will be involved with regards to providing assistance. But this is, after today, you're not going to see me stand up at the podium anymore. I wanted to do this because the charge is to, under the executive order, to the Chief Executive Officer of the government to empanel and bring together the community. It's my responsibility to do it. But it's not my responsibility, per se, to say, here's what we're going to do. I don't want that. I want you working with the community to do that. So, as a result, we'll be planning and listening and learning. draft initial proposals in early November through the end of this year. So you will have an opportunity to come up with proposals and come up with what would be considered a draft plan, which then will go back out to public comment in January through early February. So that once again, the public will have an opportunity to comment on the proposals. So really the public's getting multiple bites of the apple to bring up their concerns and then review the plan and determine if they feel it's appropriate and other items should be addressed or not. And then revise and ratify this plan for this panel through February 28th. Now, there's a reason why February 28th. Because the Erie County Legislature has to ratify the plan by April 1st. And the Erie County Legislature will, based on its tradition, will receive the plan and then will hold a hearing in which they will probably ask some of the members of the panel, if not all, to at least attend and talk about why this was done, and also give the public an opportunity once again to comment on what would then be the presented plan. And that process, usually the way the legislature works, they meet every week. 1 week is a committee meeting. The next week is a general meeting of the legislature. The following week is a committee meeting, and then the next week is a general meeting of the legislature. So the goal would be to present to the legislature by March 1st the plan as proposed by the panel, so the legislature has at least one and probably 2 committee hearings in case they decide they want to have callbacks and bring people and ask questions as to why it was done. And then the legislature ratifies the plan. Now, as I deem it, when it talks about the legislature ratifying the plan, we'll have our county attorney's office look a little further because there's still some question on it. Ratification sounds like you vote yes or no. Doesn't sound like there would be modifications to the plan based on what the legislature deems appropriate. The ratification says, and in the legislature's parlance as well, with regards to the New York State Legislature and the Erie County Legislature, that would be when I present something to the legislature and you vote up or down, but you don't have an opportunity to amend it. So I do not believe, and we'll get further guidance to confirm it, but what you present will either get voted up or voted down. And if it's voted down, well, then we have to let the state know it was voted down. If it was voted up, then it is the responsibility of Erie County to implement that plan. The schedule for future meetings, meeting number 2, and we're going to poll you all for the next 2 weeks to determine which is the best date for each of you, because we want to have as everyone as possible attend these meetings. We know not everyone's going to. But the next meeting, which will probably be in the second week of October in all likelihood, would be a review of the current Erie County Sheriff's Office policies presented by the representatives of the Erie County Sheriff's Office. So they will say, here's our current procedures and policies. I know from talking to the undersheriff as well as Chief Jocelyn, they have lots of policies, lots of procedures, and they've been prepared knowing that this meeting would be coming to do that presentation. So. The 3rd and 4th meetings, 3rd and 4th weeks of October, take public comments on matters of concern and consideration. So whatever the public wants to talk about, if we get a lot of folks, then there'll be limitations on the amount of time, so we're not here forever, but we want to hear from the public. And as we'll also show, there's an email that they can send information to. Future meetings will be done virtually and as necessary in person. I felt it was very important for everyone to come and meet in person. This room is certainly big enough and safe enough to do an in-person meeting as long as we're like this. If we have 200 people, which is what this place looks like in the Emergency Operations Center mode, then it's not. Then we'd have to go to a much larger facility. But right now, I thought it was important to do an in-person meeting so people could put a face, at least half a face, not including the mask, to each individual. And then the email to collect public comment. We have already created the email. It is ecpolicereform@erie.gov. So that is live, and any individual can send, effective now, public comment to ecpolicereform@erie.gov. And then every email will be shared with members of the committee. We're required, of course, through our Freedom of Information law to keep records of all this stuff for a certain time period. Generally, if it's Actually, direct records to the county executive have to be kept forever and from me. Things to this such would be required to be kept for 7 years. So anybody who sends that and they want to request later, what did the public say, they can get a copy of it. So I do thank you for committing to serve. This is a task that is very important, and my goal as county executive was to bring together, as I said, a group of individuals I think could represent the community and hear from the greater community and come up with a plan that will work going forward. Will we be able to address every issue that exists with regards to police reform in our greater community? No. We'll not be looking in particular at the Buffalo PD issues. If people are interested in that, there is a police reform panel for Buffalo PD. But there are serious concerns that we all know exist, regardless of what the police agency is. And when it comes to the Erie County Sheriff's Office, my goal through this process is to create a better sheriff's office that the community trusts. And I might not get every individual there, but I think if we have an open process that people feel they played a role in, and that this was not just a plan that was designed by one person and that's it, then we're never going to get the trust for people in the buy-in. But if we have people understand that this is a process for the greater community, everyone has a role, and this plan comes out as something that was created by the greater community, I feel that we will have succeeded in our charge as we receive from the governor. Now, going forward, as I said, I will not be running these meetings. I felt it was important to be running this one, so to speak, because I have the responsibility under the governor to have created this panel, and in some ways my office and myself am responsible also as this moves along. So I will be attending meetings, but I won't be in the leadership role. I've asked Professor Martin Floss to act as the chair, the convener, as we move forward, based on his experience and knowledge with regards to police issues. He has graciously accepted, so Professor Floss, thank you, and if you'd like to come up and say a few words, now's the time. And then we'll certainly open it up to general comments or questions that anyone has before we call it an evening, because this was more of an introductory meeting, but I don't want to leave anybody out from saying anything that they feel is important. So, Professor.
Thank you, and I remembered to take my mask off so you could hear me this time. I think there's only one condition that I absolutely require, and that would be that it's Marty from now on. Other than that, I just thank you. I think this is a really important thing that we're all part of, and I heard a lot of people say that, and I do have a background that I think allows me to help be organized and organize us and keep us moving in a focused way to hopefully get things done. I'm a big thinker, a big dreamer. I would hope that we could stop all community unrest and police use of force, and nobody ever complains. That was kind of my attitude with being the overseer of the Buffalo Police Department for the Department of Justice. I don't want to tell you that there's no use of force in the Buffalo Police Department or no complaints in the city anymore. I tried really hard. I hope that's what we can do. My hope is that we can be open, honest, and fair, that we can be transparent to everybody in the whole community, and that we work hard to build a better community. I wasn't thinking about saying anything tonight, but I would tell you that I am a Buffalo boy, and you can look at Floss Avenue down Genesee Street, and my family dates back to the Fruit Belt in 1863 is the first house they bought. So this is my town, just like it's your town, and I want it to be as good as it can be. And we need to support our heroes, all first responders. They do an amazing job, but we also have to hold people accountable and have policies and practices that work towards that end, and we have to listen to everybody in the community and respond to the needs. And I'm very excited because I know my hometown is special, and I think we can do something really great here. So thank you. I'll always be available. I'll have cards if anybody wants to contact me anytime for any reason. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. We will share with each of the members, if you haven't already received it, the contact information. We're not putting that public because we don't want people to contact you directly. Who knows what you get inundated with. And we do have, as I say, a process. When we take public comments for FOIL information, we retain those, so we want them to go through the EC Police Review email address. Certainly open up to anybody who's got any comments or questions or things they want to bring up at this point. Miles, could I just go to the microphone? Yeah, because we are going live to this, so as a result, it's not strong enough to pick up the voices without being at the microphone. So, and that goes directly, so it's perfectly heard.
So I don't know that it was worth coming all the way up here to ask this, but is Central Police Services housed under the Sheriff's Department? And
No.
Okay, and is that under the scope of this task force at all?
No, because it technically is not a police department, but I'll bring Commissioner Jansowitz up to talk a little bit about Central Police Services,
Okay.
though it has a very important role,
Right.
which is the 911 call center. And I've already spoken to Commissioner Jansowitz about this, and he believes that this is where we can also have a very important discussion. It technically is not a police agency like normally you would consider, and it's not even identified as one by New York State, but it does have an important role because it does run the E911 call center as well as the labs, the CSI labs for all police agencies in Erie County. So Commissioner, would you like to talk on that issue? And he has certainly said on behalf of his agency, they're willing to be a repository of information and provide information to this panel as it does its work.
So good evening. My name is Jim Jansowitz. As the county executive said, I'm the commissioner with Central Police Services. So that is a department that is under the county executive's purview. It basically is a support department for police agencies. So the police forensic lab, which is where all evidence is seized, when it's seized, is brought to for examination, whether it's DNA, chemistry, firearms, you name it. Those are the folks that analyze that. They provide testimony to the district attorney's office when needed in cases. We also have partial oversight over the Police Training Academy that's housed at ECC North as well. And again, that's done on behalf of the entire county. None of these are just exclusive to the Sheriff's Department. Every police agency in Erie County can attend the Police Academy, bring evidence to the forensic lab, as well as the communication system within the county. So if you pick up the phone, you call 911, you're going to get a CPS call taker who's going to take that information and then relay it back to a sheriff's dispatcher, a town and village police department, depending on the case at will. And there's other functions as well at Central Police Services as well. But we have a number of records to answer your question. So, we're certainly happy to assist and be a resource for this panel. My background, I've been employed with Erie County for 4 years. Prior to that, I spent 20 years with the FBI. Prior to that, I spent 8 years with another law enforcement agency. So I'm very happy to just be here and assist this panel in any way possible today. Thank you.
And I think this all brings up a very good point. The Erie County Sheriff's Office is a separate office under New York State law. It does not report to me. The Central Police Services Department is a department of Erie County government and does work under the county executive's purview. The Sheriff's Office does not work under the county executive's purview. The largest role that the Erie County Executive's Office has is what we're going through right now, which is the budgetary role when it comes to the Sheriff's Office, because the Sheriff's Office submits a budget, and then my office goes through and either presents it as is or makes changes to it, and then submits it to the legislature, which has the final vote. But the Sheriff's Office, and I've often heard this in the past, why aren't you telling the sheriff to do this? And my answer is, well, I could tell him that, but he doesn't have to listen to me because he is an independently elected official with an independent office that by New York State law does not work for the county executive. So Central Police Services, Commissioner Jansowitz and his team will be available to assist as we move along. And I think the 911 issue is a very important issue. It's actually brought up in the guidebook. And I think we'll have a very interesting conversation when the time comes to talk about that. And are there things that could be done better, including at the Central Police Services Department with regards to 911 to address issues of concern. So, thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, I thank everybody for being here tonight and for agreeing to serve. This is unlike some times when I ask people to serve and it could be a 3 or 4 year process. We know this will be done. Your role will be done by the basically end of February, because at that point it has to be turned over to the legislature to give the legislature the time. I know it's going to be quite a number of meetings, lots of information will be received, but I really thank you for agreeing to serve because I know this will create a better county, not just a better, hopefully, sheriff's office, but a better county. And as a result of it, we can look back and say, this is something we did in our careers, which created a better community. So thank you, everyone. And thank you to all who are watching live on our YouTube channel. Thanks.